Hello everybody, this is ManuS and welcome to another Legends of Runeterra spoiler review. I am catching up with the spoilers. I try to get them out as fast as possible. Sorry for the delays. As I already explained, I'm really struggling with my sleep at the moment and it's unbearably hot here most of the time in my apartment. So I'm trying to make the best of it and get the stuff to you as soon as I can. Anyway, before we dive into the next batch of spoilers, the first half of the Freljord spoilers, please consider subscribing down below. And let me briefly introduce you to today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, one of the leading virtual private network providers out there. A virtual private network keeps your data secure and yourself anonymous while using the internet. NordVPN comes with super fast servers, allows you to unlock your favorite entertainment websites like Netflix. They provide a 30-day money-back guarantee. They also have an included cybersecurity suite, which acts as an ad blocker to boot. They don't lock any of your data, provide a 24/7 customer support, and you can use it on up to 6 simultaneous connections, so one account covers most or all of your electronic devices. And most importantly, they don't have any bandwidth limit, so you can use it non-stop without it getting throttled, which is particularly important for heavy users like us. It also won multiple awards and comes highly recommended by top technology experts. So if you're still surfing online without a VPN, now is the time to change that. Get NordVPN now, 70% off for a 3-year plan, including 1 month extra for free using the code ManuS or the personalized link in the description down below. And now on to today's content. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the first half of the Freljord spoilers. First off, we have the new keyword. New keyword is called Behold. It gives you a bonus if you have a type of card in play or hand. A bit of a vague formulation, but we'll see in a moment with the first card. First, we have Faces of the Old Ones. At the round start, if you behold an 8 plus cost card, get an extra mana gem this round. So this is sort of like a conditional version of the old Wielding Stones when it still costs 2, which is pretty nice. That was a pretty strong card, and we're getting it back in sort of a rebalanced way, less health and more conditional. But yeah, if you have an 8 cost card in hand, you get the ramp. That means you need to put enough 8 plus cost cards in your deck for this to be reliable. But then again, if you are a ramp deck, that is not as hard as normally, but it's still kind of a condition, so it will not be active all the time right away, I think. And at 0-2, it is kind of fragile. But it seems like an interesting and decent card that might see some play. We don't know if there will be other Behold conditions down the line, but currently the Behold is all like 8 plus cost card in hand or play. Anyway, next we have Troll Scavenger. When I'm summoned, if you behold an 8 plus cost card, grant me +3/+0. So basically it's a 2 cost 4/3 as long as you meet the condition, which is actually pretty strong. 2 cost 4/3 is pretty solid. It still trades with the aggressive half of the 2-drops, but beats all the other ones, which is nice. And it even beats a fair share of 3-drops and stuff, and trades with most 4-drops. It is certainly a better condition than, say, the old Sump Dredger, because that was just too much of a cost to make up for being like a 2 cost 4/3. That would have needed to be like a 3/4 or something to mitigate the fact that you have to discard a card and you can't even play it if you can't discard a card. So yeah, this one is actually looking pretty solid. So you have 2 Behold 2-drops. One puts you ahead of the curve, the other one puts you ahead of the mana curve in terms of ramping. So that's kind of the theme here. You get ahead by sort of being behind in your hand, and later in the game when you're ahead and have like this 8 plus cost thing in play, your earlier cards still do decent stuff. Although Faces doesn't really do anything later in the game. But oh well. So yeah, Troll Scavenger also pretty solid. There might be a solid Behold deck where these cards could shine. But it's hard to say how good they're going to be without having played them. It depends a lot on how many 8 plus cost cards there are that you would want to put into a deck, and if you can find a balanced sweet spot between having one often enough early enough without having too many and your hand just being blank being sort of blank a lot. So this is something that is really hard to balance, both in deck building as well as in design, I think. And it could very well be that this is all too unreliable and too bad, or that it is actually pretty good and you get sort of the right balance and the cost isn't too high, and then they could be really good. But yeah, I lean more towards the not that great if I had to guess, simply because without the condition met, both cards are really bad, and with the condition met, they might not be good enough to make up for it, and the condition is pretty painful on your early game potentially. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's kind of an interesting card, and the payoff is decent. Next we have Trollravager. It's a 4-cost 3/5, and when he's summoned, if you behold an 8+ cost card, he gets regeneration. So he's a 4-cost 3/5 or a 4-cost 3/5 regeneration. Both not super impressive, probably not a constructed card, even in a behold deck. But not sure. I mean, regeneration is solid, but this is probably a bit too marginal. Then we have Usgard Ancient. That's a pretty interesting 8-cost card for the behold enabling and a nice ramping thing. He's a 7/7 challenge regeneration, so you can basically eat something every turn and recover from it. And he gives you board control, which is what you want from like your top end stuff. And if you ramp into this, you get to start catching up by like eating their stuff. So this seems like one of the more appealing things to ramp out and have in hand as a behold enabler. So if behold turns out to be viable as a like larger mechanic rather than like just a incidental free roll, then this could very well be a major part of a behold ramp deck. Next we have Troll Chant. As I mentioned with Lulu, we are starting to see debuffs at burst speed, which we haven't had before. So yeah, 2 cost, give an ally +0/+2, to give an enemy -2/-0 this round. So you need an ally in play for this to be playable, and I think you also need an enemy in play in order to play this, but that is not entirely clear. It's possible that it works with an ally but without an enemy, because you need to give an ally +0/+2 to give the -2 to the enemy. So without an ally in play, it almost certainly doesn't work. But without an enemy in play, you might still get the +0/+2 and just no -2. It's never entirely clear how these work in Runeterra, because they kind of just make them up as they go. Like now, like first Static Shock needed 2 targets, now Static Shock doesn't need 2 targets, and I think the wording is still exactly the same, stuff like that. So it's a bit hard to tell, but the do X to do Y implies that you at least need X. But yeah, all in all, pretty solid. It's basically an elixir that costs 2, but also debuffs an enemy, which certainly makes it worse than elixir, since part of why elixir is so good is because it costs 1. But you get a decent amount of additional effect for the 2, so it's still a very solid card, even though not as great as elixir. But yeah, certainly an interesting card that might end up seeing play in multiple numbers in various decks. And last but not least, we have Call the Wild. It's a 3-cost burst card draw spell. You basically, for the top 4 cards in your deck, draw each Yeti, Poro, and Elnuk, and then shuffle the rest into your deck. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be too big. I guess it's decent-ish in Poro decks, but Poro decks aren't that good, and also Poro decks, I think, have better things to do with their mana. They don't really need that to draw a bunch of measly Poros. They also don't have that many like actual Poro units in their deck. Elnuks are pretty dead unless we get a bunch of good new Elnuks, and even then, probably not. And Yetis were never a thing and never good enough, and I don't think that is gonna change with Call the Wild, but we'll see. But yeah, this card is probably really bad. So yeah, that's the first half of the Freljord spoilers and the new mechanic Behold. I'll try to get the second half of the Freljord spoilers with Trundle and friends to you today as well, as fast as possible, and then try to catch up with the latest spoiler either today or tomorrow, so we are back on track hopefully by tomorrow. All right, That's it again for this time. Let me know in the comments what you think of these spoilers. As usual, let's have a conversation about the new cards. These spoilers seem less exciting than the ones we've had so far, but there's still a couple of decent, like kind of interesting-ish ones. But this seems like the weakest batch of spoilers so far, probably, to me. And yeah, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like and subscribe for more down below. And yeah, share it with your friends and so on and so forth. You know the drill. And that's it again for this time. I'm your host, ManuS. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.